looks, folks, like there is some progress here. Maybe these are baby steps?
Oh, absolutely. I think at Barclays Research, we've been very consistent about this. I think you can get this phase one deal, this mini deal that really focuses on agricultural exports, removal or reduction of some of these tariffs, maybe market access into China. But I think the thornier issues of forced technology transfer, intellectual property theft, corporate subsidies from the state, those things are still remaining, and they're outstanding going forward.
Are those things long-term problems that are going to get solved over a period of years, not months, or what?
This is a long-term issue for the U.S. and for China is a major strategic competitor to the United States. This will go well beyond the current administration, and I think you're seeing that posture playing out on the defense side here in the U.S., but also playing out internationally as allies are beginning to think about these two different competing sides.
It looks, Michelle, like the December tariffs that were supposed to kick in on the 15th now are off.
Right.
It looks like the September tariffs that went into place September 1 may be rolled back. And that previously delayed tariffs, I believe there were some that were supposed to go into effect October 15th.
Yeah, October, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be permanently postponed. This is not all tariffs are going away. And this is not even that all of the tariffs that have occurred, seemingly, we don't know, that all of the tariffs that have gone in place in this phase of trade war are disappearing.
No, that's exactly right. I would say two things. Directionally, though, they're not going up.
They're not going
right?
up.
They're stopping and or going backward. The other point I would make is that the Chinese finally seem to back off this idea that all tariffs had to go away from day one. They've now allowed an incremental approach, which was them giving in some way. What we've given in on is a question. Maybe it's the willingness to delay all of the other big issues that we've just discussed.
A lot of those go away, but it does sound like what we may come away from in this phase one deal is the ability to export into China more agricultural product, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But all that other stuff goes on for years, probably.
But as Shawn says, a lot of the big outlying issues like forced technology transfers, support for state-owned enterprises, various other things, they are down the road. And one of them bears on something you talked with the head of the FCC about the other day, and that is the role of Chinese companies like Huawei, ZTE in embedding into American infrastructure. Tell us what he told you.
So this highlights the point that there are still going to be major national security concerns with China. The head of the FCC, Ajit Pai, spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations yesterday. I interviewed him to talk about this issue where he has decided that the FCC should not be using any money on any kind of Huawei equipment that would be used in the rural areas of the country to roll out broadband. A lot of rural carriers like it because it's cheaper. He said, we can't do that anymore. And I asked him, why is that? Is that because the other companies that the U.S. could buy from, Ericsson and Nokia, is it that they have fewer backdoors that would allow spying, which is the accusation against Huawei, or is it that they simply come from a country that follows our rule of law, believes in human rights to the same degree that we do?
And we have what he told you.
Exactly, yes.
If you look at some of the independent experts that examine equipment and services, software in particular, that come from these vendors, they will consistently find that equipment from Huawei and other Chinese vendors tends to be more insecure, that there are more opportunities to insert malicious lines of code and the like. And secondly, I do think it is the case, by any reasonable observers anyway, that those countries have more of a framework of the rule of law than does China.
So fundamentally, he said it's a little bit of both.
Yeah,
a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
Rule of law and the fact that they, you have a thought here, and also in my notes, a very provocative phrase that I assume originated with you, the idea that there may be a technology iron curtain descending between the United States and China.
That's something that I think a lot of folks have been saying in the policy world and defense communities as well. But on Huawei, one of the things to keep in mind is, while we have them on the entity ban and the U.S. has this export license agreement and we can decide what goes forward, President Trump and the administration may have the ability to grant additional licenses. And this is something that Beijing wants. They want Huawei to be removed from the entity ban, and that's extremely important for them. But they're probably not going to get that in this process. And one thing to keep in mind is if the administration were to remove some of these restrictions, Congress could begin to weigh in on this. It'd be unusual to see that, but you've seen a lot of bipartisan interest in Congress being very nervous about the issues of 5G.